You're listening to KCFV at Florissant Valley Community College, located in Ferguson, Missouri. Since the shooting death of Michael Brown August 9th by a Ferguson police officer, St. Louis, as well as other cities across the nation, has seen protest and civil unrest. One of the issues that has been brought up and reported on here in St. Louis is the lack of diversity in local police departments. Today we're going to talk about that topic, and we have three guests to give us some insight into that issue. Professor Tim Maher is a professor and the undergraduate director for the Criminology and Criminal Justice Department at the University of Missouri St. Louis, also referred to as UMSL. He has been at UMSL since 1997, and before that, he was a police officer with the city of Ladue. We also have St. Louis County Police Officer Kevin Miner. He is a 24-year police veteran and recently became the recruitment officer for the St. Louis County Police Department. And last but not least, we also have Flow Valley Communications student Dontez Smith. He lives in North County and has attended the protest since the beginning, right after the Michael Brown shooting happened in August, and he continues to attend the protest in the area. Thank you all for being here today. And I want to start off with some statistics about the diversification of police departments here in the area. In St. Louis, there was a Post-Dispatch article over the summer which compared the percentages of the African-American population to the African-Americans on the police force in several of the municipalities. As of the article's publication, the article shows Ferguson with a 67% black population and a 7% diversified police department. The lowest percentages were 0% rates on the police departments for Overland, which has a 16% black population, and Riverview, who has a 70% black population. The closest in numbers was University City, with a 41% population and a 42% population for the police department. One reason given for the lack of diversification by the police departments is the issue of lack of minority interest in applicants. Okay, so now we can get going. Let's start with Dontez, and you've been out at the protest and with the community. What are you hearing from the community and the young people about policing and why there are such low numbers that are pursuing law enforcement as a career?
Honestly, I don't think a lot of people are interested in being cops or being police officers.
Sir, and the undergraduate director and advisor for the Criminology and Criminal Justice Department at the University of Missouri St. Louis, also referred to as UMSL. Do they list any reasons as to why they're not?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with what's going on right now across the country and stuff that happened before the Mike Brown shooting and the situation in New York. I was speaking to somebody yesterday about folks are raised not liking cops. I mean, it's something that's like smashed into our skulls as kids, because we see our uncles in prison, we see our dads in jail, and we see our family members in jail, and we just discover at a young age that some cops are not good. And when you grow up with that kind of mindset, obviously that's not something that you're going to want to pursue if that's something that you're taught to not like.
Do you see anything, if there were people who wanted to in the community that you're talking about? Are you talking basically about the black community?
I'm talking about the black community.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we're clear and everyone understands what we're doing. Do you see anyone that would want to become a police officer? Are there any barriers that you see that would maybe keep them from doing it besides that?
Okay, so if someone grew up not caring about what they were taught and they just wanted to pursue a career in law enforcement, I don't think there's any barriers placed on them, no.
Then, as a professor working with young people at the college level in criminal justice, Professor Maher, what are you seeing and hearing from the students in those departments? Is there any interest in policing and attending a police academy there that you see?
Yes, obviously, given the fact that I teach in the Criminology and Criminal Justice Department, I come into contact with people who are interested in those topics, and there are a considerable number of people who attend our program that are interested in law enforcement. This includes many minority, including African Americans. I'd like to mention something first. Ideally, race shouldn't matter with respect to being a police officer. Ideally, the thing that should matter is the training of the police officer, the professionalism of the police officer, race, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, religion. Those are things that really shouldn't matter. But that's ideally. In reality, those things, especially race and ethnicity, do seem to matter. And as a result, I think most police administrators, most police agencies, police chiefs would like to see a higher number of minority representation in their police departments, especially in those communities that have significant numbers of minorities in the public. With respect to our students, There are a number of minorities interested in law enforcement, but the number of minorities interested in law enforcement definitely are fewer than non-minorities.
So, Officer Miner, as the recruitment officer for St. Louis County Police, how do you go about recruitment, and how do you maybe combat some of, like what Dontez was saying, what they're taught as young kids to not like the police department? What do you tell people who might approach you at these job fairs if you attend them?
Well, I'll let them know first and foremost the opportunity is there, okay? Because I have a lot of people come to me at job fairs and other venues that ask me, or where are the police at? Where are the black police officers at? And they're asking me as such if they're being excluded, and then I just tell them, hey, if you know someone, you send them my way. But I, just let them know the opportunity is open to everyone. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's all I can really do. And if you've had bad dealings with the police, maybe you have. I don't know, but I'm here, and you can make a difference also. And it's up to the individual. And but like Dontez said, I mean, I've seen my uncle, go to prison, and a couple of other people in my family go to prison, But the thing is, I knew what they were doing. They taught me what not to do, which made me want to take this road. So, but like I said, the opportunity is open to everyone. And my thing is, as a recruitment officer, is diversity. I'm looking for people of all races, male, female, different degrees, different backgrounds. So that's my thing is you want your police department to look like the community that you serve. Right. And that is my goal, not to say it wasn't before, but that is my personal goal as a police officer.
Now, as an African American growing up, did you have some of the same experiences that Dontez is speaking about now? How kids are taught not to like the police?
Oh yes, yes. I've seen that, not heard it. And like I said, it's it can be tough, and when that's been ingrained in your, in your head. And based on that, later on in life, it's not cool to be the police.
Do you hear anything from the young people that you speak with about peer pressure? Maybe someone has an idea that they might like to look into being a police officer, but they're afraid of repercussions in their community or family, friends.
Well, exactly. I mean, I talked to maybe 4 or 5 black males on the street. Young black males on the street, and of course, you can tell maybe one or two of them have that twinkling in their eye that they're, I got a question.
What I usually do is just, hey, look,
look, you know where I am, and other peer pressure. I have to do it that way because other peer pressure. Because like I said, it's not cool to be the police, especially when you're with 5 of your other buddies or whatever. So.
The qualifications for African Americans may not know that to obtain a Missouri Peace Officer license, like that, applicants have to be 21 years old. They have to have a high school diploma or equivalent. They have to be a U.S. citizen. They have to meet criminal history requirements. They have to pass the state Peace Officer license exam, graduate from a basic law enforcement training center, and that is through the Missouri Department of Public Safety. And all of this information is online through them if anyone wants more information. Is there anything in there that someone should be worried about, or is there any stigma that is out there that maybe could stop someone or what they need to work towards?
It's doing a background investigation when you apply for the job. Something usually comes up during that phase. Whether it's undetected crimes or something that they didn't disclose during the process that we, the police departments, find out. And that within itself would cause them to be disqualified from the process.
How stringent is that? I mean, is it?
It's a 4 to 6 month process, mm-hmm. So we can get in touch with past employers, educational institutions, neighbors, bosses. It just depends. It's like I said, that it's very strenuous. Because we want to give you a gun and a badge. So.
I want to make another comment. I just want to say that, we all go through periods in our lives, like as youth, when we're trying to decide what we want to be in life. So I can sit here and admit that at one time I wanted to be a cop. I'm actually a security officer right now because it's just something that I enjoy doing. But as a kid, there was a time when I wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to be a police officer because of what they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to be doing for our community. So I don't know, maybe 14, 15 years old, I thought about it. I mean, I spoke to a recruiter when I was in high school as a freshman. And it was something that I thought that I wanted to do. So I looked into it. But after a while, our minds change and I moved on to something different. So, I came to, that conclusion at the time to be a police officer again, because I felt like it was just something that I wanted to do. I was taught, quote unquote, and when I say taught as a child, not to like police, I'm not saying my mom sat down and said, Dontez, don't be a police officer because of blah, blah, blah. When I say taught, I'm just saying things that I saw around me and in my community growing up in Memphis at first. And then when I moved back to St. Louis, on the north side of St. Louis, all of the stuff that was happening. But like the officer said, I knew that people were doing bad things. So I knew that they were going to jail because of blah, blah, blah. And that I wasn't going to jail. I've never been arrested, never been inside of a prison because I didn't go down that path. But I still saw certain things around me, and it made me think a certain way about the police or certain police officers. Okay.
Did you ever feel any peer pressure if you would say out loud you wanted to be a police officer from your friends or anything like that?
No, not really.
Okay.
But with everything that's going on around Ferguson, I received a lot of slack for being a security officer.
Really?
Yeah.
Like what kind of slack?
To be honest with you, I was approached by some guys because I had my uniform on. And they were talking a lot of smack and things like that. And I had to do my best to, not let the situation escalate.
You were talking about physical violence?
Yes. And it was something I didn't want to deal with because, I'm not a police officer. So I felt that, I'm for the cause. I'm with you guys. And they saw me in a uniform and all they saw was a badge and stripes on my shoulders. So they automatically felt like I was a part of that. Not saying that I wouldn't want to be a part of it, but as of right now, police officers people aren't really saying a lot of good things about them right now.
Right.
So I felt like I didn't want to be involved in it.
Is that something that you're seeing and hearing and feeling out there also, Officer Maher?
Oh, yes. I was part of the, the Ferguson situation, and I heard and saw things. And, right now, I knew after the Mike Brown situation that this would change law enforcement throughout the whole country. And the only thing I was wrong about that, the whole world got involved. I approach people and try to, pick their brain about, okay, how do you really feel about this, And I think a lot of time it freezes them up because they're not used to a police officer coming in and saying, how do you feel? Let me know. What is your take on this? Because I'm interested in knowing. I'm interested in help heal this thing.
Right.
Because after you call the police officer so many names, what is your point? Like you said, it's just about the uniform. If they're not trying to harm you physically, I really don't take it personally because out of his uniform, whether it's before Ferguson, after Ferguson, people think that, did I go to high school with you? They don't remember who I am, But, I try not to take it personally, but I do hear a lot of things.
That brings up one thing. We'll talk about solutions here in just a minute. But in the community, they're saying that they want more police diversification. They want the police departments to look like the communities that they serve. We'll start with the community side, and then we'll give everyone a chance to answer here. Even if we achieve, which is not going to be an overnight process to achieve that, even if we achieve complete diversification on a police department, say like Ferguson, I hear the narrative out there that they believe that minorities could understand or relate to the minority community better. But don't police officers all go through this exact same training? What is diversifying the police department? What's that really going to do? Will it make it better? As an African-American police officer, do you think you would approach things differently in the community versus, say, a white or an Asian or any other type of ethnicity police officer?
Well, yes and no. Me personally, I grew up in this area, and I was blessed to, patrol the community I grew up in. I went to high school here. My mom and dad still live in the area, and it's very easy for me. I don't know about any other officer that's not from this area, but the thing is, like I said, you want to look like the community that you serve, and people, you look like you're more approachable. I do understand that, but it's due to the officer's training also. You want to be professional no matter what, but it's just, it makes them more at ease if they see people who look like them. If women, like talking to women officers, whatever reason, and it follows suit as far as, races also. Like you have an Asian community and I have an Asian police officer, because if nothing else, they look at you and say, if this guy can do it, I can do it. So, that's something to think about.
Yeah, I'll echo what Officer Maher said, that people feel comfortable speaking with people that they feel they have something in common with. So if you're African American and you have encounters with African American police officers, I think it helps put people at ease. However, that's not always going to be the case. Even in a diverse police department, you can't pick and choose which officer is going to come answer your call, which officer is going to pull you over, or which officer is going to be the one that you approach for help. If you're a white police officer and you're in black, you should expect that whichever officer is involved in the situation in which you are involved will act professionally. And that goes to education, training, professionalism. But with respect to how people perceive those officers, they do like to see people of their same color, of their same gender. It certainly suggests that they know where they're coming from, that they can reflect on their past, and that it may be similar to the situation in their perspective, so that officers can draw from their experience, from their backgrounds, and say, okay, I get where you're coming from. And I think that the public tends to see that as well, and wants to see that. How we get to that point, we need to go out and actively recruit more minorities to get them interested, and we have to impress upon them that the police are there to help them, to serve them, to work with them. There's been a distrust of the police, particularly among minorities, but not exclusively. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't like the police, and those are white people included. But there has been a distrust of the police for a long time, especially among minorities. To erase or to remove that distrust is going to take time as well. And I think there have been legitimate efforts, really in the past 20, 30 years, by communities, by law enforcement, to try and win the confidence of minorities through things like community policing, through reaching out to minority groups and wanting to get their opinions, their ideas about how they want the police to react and what they want from law enforcement in the community. But then when situations like Ferguson and then in New York happen, it causes a step back. I think some real good can come out of the Ferguson situation, not just with regard to minority police relations, but the fact that all these municipalities have their own court systems, which really complicates things and it alienates people. Folks could say, I can't really afford to pay a ticket, so I'm just not going to show up to court, which is the wrong thing to do. But I think that the police and the courts have to articulate right up front, look, don't miss your court date. Show up. We can work something out. We can work out maybe a payment scheme so that you pay $20 a month as opposed to having to pay $300 all at once. And then the warrant situation, because people don't show up for these court dates because perhaps they can't pay, they get multiple warrants. Ultimately, they get arrested. People end up then losing their jobs. They have no child care to help take care of their kids. The people that are going to post bond for them have to follow them around from police station to police station. These are things that we can fix relatively easy, quite frankly. And I think it would help not just minorities, but anybody that can't pay a ticket right away. But I think that would help win the confidence of some minorities because their experience with the system oftentimes is so negative that they get a real bad taste in their mouth. And they think that the police are not sympathetic to their situation when oftentimes the cop says, look, I'm just doing my job. I can't not arrest you. You got a warrant for your arrest. So there's a number of things we have to do. I think that this whole situation has brought this to the forefront, and I think we can move off in a positive direction.
Because the county, St. Louis County has like 90 or 91 municipalities in it.
Like Mr. Maher said, he's speaking in terms of people who are trying to be responsible and who can't get from under this, this court obligations or whatever. And, and when people are trying to do the right thing and they can't afford it, you might be a single parent with 3 kids or whatever, and you do have these warrants for these tickets and you get pulled over, you get arrested, then you get your car towed, and you're that further behind the 8 ball. And that within itself causes anger, okay, because you're trying to do the right thing, but you just can't get from under it. And then you have the Ferguson situation, and this is just my opinion, and then you got so many percentage of people who are trying to be responsible who are now angry and they're, have reason to be. And then you got so much people who are out there who just want to, be disruptive because it's an opportunity. So, but the thing is like you said, it's a lot of municipal courts and a lot of cities. You might drive 30 feet and it's a different speed limit. it's all fixable.
Right. Well, the Ferguson Commission and the state have been doing some looking into that about the court reform. So hopefully we don't know what's happening with that yet, but hopefully some good things will come. Now, Dontez, is that what they've been talking about? Is that the narrative you're also hearing from the community? Are they?
Well, I wanted to comment first on the more minorities and minority-driven communities.
Yes.
I think it's half and half. I think that if a black officer walked up to me about anything, I would feel the exact same way if he was a white officer, because he's a police officer. Skin color is really not doing anything for me, because at the end of the day, it's about the police officer's interaction with that person. I hate to bring it up, but social media is showing us with the videos and things like that of police officers' interaction with citizens. There's a lot of police officers out there who do a lot of disrespectful stuff to citizens. They curse them out. They call them out their names. They do a lot of rude things to people. That stuff goes viral and everybody gets to see it. And then you experience it yourself. You have a bad taste in your mouth, regardless of if he's black or if he's white or if he's Asian, no matter what he is. If a police officer comes up to you, the first thing you think about is your experience with police officers. And then you think about stuff that you've seen on social media, stuff that goes viral with videos, like with the Eric Garner situation. You think about stuff like that. Skin color really does not matter. A lot of folks locally and nationally are turning it into a race issue. But me personally, and a few folks that I know, it's kind of divided. We don't want it to be strictly based on race. And a lot of people do want to base it on race. In the Darren Wilson, Mike Brown situation, I think that it would have got big and went mainstream regardless if he was black or if he was white, because of the facts that people believe are true. Him being unarmed and him surrendering. So regardless of skin color, folks would have felt the exact same way if he was black or if he was white.
So attending these protests and things that you've been doing out in the community, what is the changes that people would like to see?
A big thing that I hear folks talking about, again, is the interaction between police officer and citizen. That situation could be a lot better. Citizens can talk to police officers a lot better, and police officers can talk to people a lot better. And again, I think it's just based on experience. We don't like cops. People out there just don't like cops, so they don't want to talk to them, period. They don't want to talk to them. So they talk to police officers any kind of way, and police officers know that you don't want to talk to them. So sometimes they talk to you any kind of way. That's just how it is.
Okay, Professor?
Yeah, I'd like to add on to that oftentimes most times police are in a negative situation. People that are interacting with the police typically are in a situation that is not desirable, whether it's because the police have been called to a situation that's bad, maybe it's even an accident, perhaps it's being pulled over for a ticket, but right away, it's a bad situation that these cops have to deal with the people. So already it's something that is negative. But I would like to point out, he makes a great point. It's how people are treated. Anecdotally, as a police officer for 13 years, and I suspect Officer Miners will agree, you have to treat people with respect. Even sometimes when you're not being treated so respectfully, the police have to be professional and be above that to some extent. Everybody has their threshold. You can only be called vulgar, nasty names and so often before it can irritate you. But police have to be respectful, and I think that police who are respectful of people and treat them professionally find that people are easier to deal with as a result. Now, with respect to the perception of how people are treated, I think it's been blown out of proportion. I think social media helps blow it out of proportion. You take one bad incident.
That's what social media is for, I think.
Well, but
blows it up.
It does blow it, but it blows it so out of proportion that people get the wrong perception. I sincerely believe that the vast majority of police officers are good, upstanding people. They're human beings doing a job, sometimes a very tough job. Again, often in negative situations, just trying to go home, maybe a dangerous job at that, and they just want to do the best job that they possibly can. A small percentage of them make mistakes, some intentionally, some unintentionally. We all make mistakes. But when the mistakes get multiplied numerous times because of the social media, people say, well, that's all cops. Or if you have one bad experience, maybe you've had 10 encounters with a police officer and one of them was bad, the one you're probably going to remember the most is the bad one. And now you cops are a bunch of idiots, and I hate you cops. I don't want to deal with you.
Social media is
yes.
immediate too. So, Officer Maher, what has your experiences been out there in regards to this?
Well, let me say this. I mean, as far as police officer, and like I said, grew up in this community, and I've been a field training officer also, and I train the new recruits when they come out of the academy, when they graduate, and they ride along with me and get evaluated for 15 weeks. And some of them are from rural areas, and they haven't had a lot of interaction with black people. And I have to let them know that we policemen are dealing with a very, very small portion of society. We see people at their worst, but we deal with a very small portion of society. And what I'm saying is it's easy to get that mindset of this is the way all people are. But you have to think outside the box. So people are working. They pay their bills. Pay their taxes. And I try not to. I let them know that it's more to it than just what you're seeing. I think they get it. Right? I let them know that, and I take them to different social settings and different businesses, and to get them out of that mindset.
Law enforcement, when they go through training, and when you're teaching training, this is for everyone to answer. When you have different places, maybe one place has a higher crime rate than another place here in the city. Now, again, we know that there's differences as to why there's different crime rates, but that's a different show. So when officers are being trained in school, criminal justice, or through an academy, are there different approaches or different mindsets that police go into these different areas that have different crime rates that they look at or have to respond to?
I think from an educational standpoint, in other words, when I'm teaching at UMSL, not as much. We teach people about crime causation, what motivates people to commit crime. But we do obviously want police officers to look at, well, why are they in that situation? Why is a person committing that crime? And take that into consideration. With respect to how police officers police people once they're on the job, no doubt higher crime rate areas certainly require that police often be more cautious. I mean, especially if you're talking about violent crime. Working in the 6th District in St. Louis City is a whole lot different than working where I worked in Ladue. And how you approach cars, while you're still going to be cautious, no doubt you have to be even more cautious, because the ratio of people who you are likely to run into that are in fact violent criminals increases somewhat. So you are going to definitely perceive things different depending on which area that you work in and what the crime rate is in that area. But you still have to do the job professionally, morally, ethically, and treat people with respect and dignity.
Okay. And that may not have anything to do with race at all. It just has to do with...
Absolutely. I don't care what your race is or what your gender is or ethnicity. You treat people pretty much the same, at least from the initial contact.
Okay. And then Officer Maher, as being a police officer out there working, what's your mindset when you go into these areas? Is there a difference that you have to think of not only to protect the public, take care of crime, and then protect yourself as well? Is there a different approach that you have or have to think about?
Yeah, it's a little different. I mean, for as Mr. Maher said, with the area that is susceptible to violent crimes, your tactics change a little bit, But the thing is like he said, you have to remain professional, because I've been on several different task forces, and we have gone after criminals in, really nice neighborhoods. And the height level is the same as it is, any place else. So, and we try not to deviate from that professionalism. That's what gets a lot of cops in trouble. And this is why you have the mistrust a lot of times, because it looks like you're doing more so over here than you are over there.
I'm also talking about a few solutions to that. There seems to be some gridlock between the community and police departments, especially right now, with everything that's going on. What are some of the first steps that can be taken to maybe help communication or to help the situation maybe decompress some and so we can move forward? And I understand that there's things like poverty and there's schoolings and all of those things in the courts that are being looked at. Those are more of a longer term process. Right now, maybe even baby steps, what is some of the first things that everyone is seeing that we might be able to move forward with to help the situation? And let's start with the community aspect with Dontez.
Well, I think as a community, to kind of fix the interaction between us and police officers, we can first, I guess, try to change our mindset. Because like we talked about earlier with a lot of black folks and maybe even other minority groups, it was something that was taught at a young age. So maybe we can kind of take that whole thing away as we're teenagers, as we're adults, and we think for ourselves, our experiences with cops. And, when you're pulled over, if you know for a fact you did nothing wrong, you need to think positively about what's about to happen with this police officer. Instead of being nervous and wanting to be negative as soon as, he or she talks to you, be a little bit more positive about what you're about to say to this guy or this woman. With police officers, like they were talking about earlier, I think it has a lot to do with police officer training. And whenever you do finally get out of that academy and you're out there on the streets, remember what you were taught in the academy. You were taught certain values and morals in the academy. You need to still have those same values and morals when you get on the street.
What do you think is going to take in order to maybe start that process? But what can maybe spark that in order to get it moving?
I think what's going on right now, protests. The city governments, state governments, federal government, they need to take notice on what's going on, not just nationally, but across the world. This is something that is very important to people. We have family members who are locked up for things that they didn't do. We have family members who were murdered by police officers. They need to take notice that this is something that is really important to people, fixing this relationship that we have with police officers. I don't think this is stopping anytime soon.
Okay. Officer Maher, what do you think police can do in order to help start the situation off, maybe with communication, in order to move forward?
Well, I'm going to say this. I know how I conduct myself on the street. I knew who I was before I put this uniform on. This uniform doesn't validate me. I'm a father. I'm a son. I treat people like I want to be treated. Along with my training and common sense, that's the formula that has worked for me. I can't speak for, 1,000 other police officers, but I would like for the public themselves to be a little bit more accountable. If you see a homicide happen in front of your house, say something. Because committing crimes has nothing to do with being black. Okay, Mr. Louis Farrakhan will tell you that. But that's a good way to invest in your community. See something, say something. It's just that simple. It's frustrating for police officers who want to solve crimes. It goes both ways. You want a police officer there to be professional and solve crimes, and you want a citizen there who invests in their community by getting involved and saying something. So, it goes both ways.
Okay, Professor?
I think the key here is communication, creating a dialogue that helps change perceptions. And while I think some negative things have come out of the protest, I think there are some positive things. And communication and creating this dialogue where there was not much of one before is one of the positive things that will come out of these protests. I think we need to change the perceptions that the public, especially the minorities, but not exclusively, because there's non-minorities that don't think very well of the police either. But changing perceptions about the police, but then the police have to change their perceptions of the community as well. Not all black people are criminals. We know there are some factors that correlate closely with criminal behavior. Poverty, lack of education, lack of job opportunity, but we also know that not all poor people are criminal. In fact, the vast majority of poor people are not chronic criminal. We know that lack of education leads to criminal behavior, but we also know that lack of education does not directly correlate to criminal behavior, because there's a lot of people that aren't very well educated that are not chronic criminal. We need to change the perceptions that the police have. We need to change the perceptions that the public has about the police. And, I would love to see more, and this would be a specific thing, more ride-along programs where they go and they recruit young minority people to say, you come ride a shift with this police officer and see how they do their job and see how they conduct themselves and see what their job entails, what they have to deal with. And I think it would open some eyes of some young people and say, wow, I didn't realize that this is what a police officer had to do and how they work. There are ride-along programs. There are internship-type programs. I have my students do internships with police departments, and many times they come back to me and say, that was really a positive experience, and I learned a lot.
Officer Maher?
Yeah, with that being said, I've dealt with citizen academies, and we put them through scenarios that we go through daily on the street, and a lot of them will come back to me and say, I had no idea. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to do. And, I think we had more of that interactive type of training with the public that they can go through the shoot, no shoot machines and just doing role plays and things of that nature, then a lot of times they have to see for themselves.
Right. There was actually a report this morning that I brought in. In Phoenix, there was an activist that went with police, and they went through a use of force scenarios. He was critical of police before, and when he came out of it, he had a change of heart. Because when he really saw what police officers have to do on the job and the decisions they have to make, it changed his mind.
Yeah, you experience that chronic stress, and then you have to problem solve through that. And it's easy to say that after the fact. I can tell what the quarterback should have did in the game last week. He should have did this, but he's in that situation, And what makes you a good cop is you can problem solve through a chaotic situation, and then go to the next call and help an old lady out to her car or to the ambulance. You have to have all these aspects of doing the job. You have to be well faceted in all areas.
If a person wanted to think about becoming a police or find out more information about becoming a police officer, what's the first steps they ought to think about that they need to get done for themselves, in order of, let's say, education? I mean, what's the first thing they have to do in order to start thinking about that?
Well, do your research. Is this job right for you? My thing is, I'm a recruiter, of course, but I try not to talk people into the job. I give them advice on it, because any job where you can, lose your life, fire department, police department, military, they have to be comfortable with that aspect of it. It's a very personal, endeavor. So if you come to me, I will give you all the steps to take to move you forward in that career. But do your research first. And what I'm saying is, you can't watch First 48 or any other TV show and say, hey, I think I can do that. Because that's not real. That's not realistic.
I would like to give everyone a chance for a closing statement and thoughts, and anything else they would like to bring up. And other than that, I think we've had a good conversation. I hope the audience out there who's listening maybe has learned something. These are very complex and complicated issues, and there's a lot of them and a lot of different opinions to talk about. So hopefully you've learned something today from our guest.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the program. I think that programs like this will help improve things. I think perceptions have to change, as I mentioned already. I think the perceptions of the community need to change somewhat about the police, and part of that's going to be on the police to help change those perceptions. I also think that the perceptions of the police are going to have to change for the community, and that there's going to be some more effort, more than has been done already, on the part of the police to try and win the hearts and minds of people to go the extra mile to get things accomplished, to make things better. We need to get more minorities interested in law enforcement. That would help. As I started out saying when I first spoke, ultimately it shouldn't matter what race, color, religion, gender you are as a police officer. If you're acting professionally, people should expect to be treated pretty much the same by any police officer that they encounter. I would like to see us get to a point somewhere down the line where, and not just in policing, but just across the board in any job or just in dealing with people, that your race doesn't matter. I don't care if you're black, white, green, or yellow. I'm going to treat you with respect and dignity unless you give me reason not to. As our culture changes, as our society changes, so will law enforcement. And it's going to take a little bit more time, but I think positive steps are being made.
Okay. Officer Maher?
Thanks for having me also. Like I said, the opportunities here, and I think the change starts with each and every one of us. I've always been under the belief that I'm a work in progress until I die, and there's always room for improvement. And as far as the Ferguson situation, I've been getting more and more applicants actually contacting me through email or phone call because they want to get involved because of Ferguson. So I'm getting more contacts because of Ferguson, because a lot of people think, because of Ferguson, would think that nobody would be trying to be the police, but I'm getting people from other states, and so Ferguson's kind of helped my contacts, in a certain way.
So even though it seems negative now, there might be something good on the horizon. Is what you're saying? Okay,
it's already happening.
Right,
so,
right.
I'm just, I got to put the word out there. Mm-hmm. It's slowly changing, and I'm kind of seeing it on my end. So, but the thing is I'm here to help, help the situation, and to move further in the future, and like I said, the opportunity is there. If you want to get in touch with me, you can go to our website at www.cfv-fm.com. stlouiscode.com/police, or you can contact me at St. Louis County Police Headquarters Personnel Services Unit at 314-615-4273.
Dontez?
Well, thank you, Holly, for inviting me on today, and thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of this program. Being out there, watching the protests from the Mike Brown to the most recent Antonio Martin, I've seen firsthand how people really feel about police officers. Now, like I said earlier, it is divided. Some people really want solutions, and other people are just upset with officers, and they just want to scream at you. I've seen a lot of people who just want to scream at them, especially with the Antonio Martin situation. People are really upset at what's going on around this country. I think that interaction between police officers and citizens, better interaction between the two, is something that really needs to happen for change. It's going to be a huge task to get all citizens to have the same mindset going into interactions with police officers. But I think that police officers can be the first. They can make that first step. The way you talk to people, the way you when you pull somebody over and you're talking to them, that interaction, they can be the first step as far as bettering that relationship that we have with them. And when that happens, I think that it's straight up from there. I can see a lot of positivity coming from that, because right now a lot of folks don't like police officers for whatever reason. I appreciate police officers. You guys are there's a bunch of you who are doing your jobs and doing them well. That's a job that a lot of people just cannot do. Similar to the military, a lot of people just don't want to do it. They don't want to risk their lives, and police officers do it every day. You put that badge on. This is what you're about. I just wish, and the community wishes, that there are more good ones.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here very much. Hopefully everybody has learned a little something.